What do you want to speak about today, Marwa?
I would definitely love to speak about writing the book and what that meant for me.
Okay. First, if we can show this to people. Is this
Yes.
So this is Marwa's book. It's called Marketing Communications on the Job. She just launched it, and it's going to get autographed. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, tell us about the process.
It was really interesting getting into the process of writing a book. I think each and every one of us have a message to give out to the world. I know for the new generation, it has become so easy to put those messages out there. They are, the Gen Zs are in the workforce now, and they are the first digital all generation. So they've learned how to interact with machines and how to put their voice out there and to just, open their phones, put on the camera and speak to the world. It was very interesting because I don't come from that generation. And I come from the generation that really grew up in libraries, paid respect to homes that had shelves, that had books, to fathers and mothers who held a book in their hand, who held the morning newspaper and read the news before they went to work. And to me, the process of reading and the notion I have about books is very, very holy in general. I mean, our religions come from books, so everything that comes out of a book has something to benefit you. And COVID was the start of it all. It was the time when high-performing business professionals like myself, who believe you need to put your all in each and every day of work, were forced to calm down, to have some time and space on their hands where their brains are not overstimulated and their inboxes are empty. You've read all the emails, you've addressed them, you've worked. And to think of self-expression. And that's where I noticed that if I reflect back on my life, I have been a person who has given so much to her career. Career has been a major drive and a major motivation. And I'm very blessed that I work in a field that I'm passionate about. So I never felt any friction on the job. Everything that came my way was something I enjoyed learning. But I didn't learn it the easy way. I'm very entrepreneurial in the sense that I thrive in business environments where things are not very regimented. I don't usually work with a fixated job description, and I worked for companies that are growing, and actually this region is growing. So I think a lot of people share my experience where you're not here to keep the status quo or to perfect one or two processes. You're here to make a change, to explore new territories. And I had to learn a lot on the job. And I was a person who always referred to books when I wanted to learn. So when I was on the agency side, I was very fascinated by copywriters and their ability to write punchy messages that are so smart, so witty, and yet so simple. The fact that you need to use the power of words, but to keep it to a 3-word sentence was something that really fascinated me. So when I was on the agency side, I started reading about copywriting, about the art of, sending out messages.
What were you doing on the agency side?
I was in account management, so I was handling the day-to-day business of...
So you weren't on the creative side?
I wasn't on the creative side. I was the messenger between the creative department and the client. And you really are the messenger, but in the process, you have to translate business needs into creative needs. And you need to really transport what your client is telling you into very exciting and interesting insights that can trigger something in the creative brain to help them come up with something that is extraordinary.
Yeah, and the opposite.
And the opposite as well. Yeah. Pitching the ideas to your client is also an art by itself. And I noticed that what drives creativity is general awareness. something that I never thought of. I mean, some people tell you in order to be a creative person, you have to think outside the box. So put the ordinary aside and think of the extraordinary. But your brain is not wired to do that. Our brains are wired to visualize what we already have seen. It's very hard for you to see a color that doesn't exist. And so, in understanding the process of creativity, I discovered the interconnectedness of it all. If you read the news every morning and you understand what this sentiment of the world is all about, some days are just very positive and happy, some days are worrisome, and you transport that into different messaging, you are able to connect to people. And then from there, you're able to come up with creative ideas. And I think just the idea of observation is something that really blew my mind. I remember I read a book on creativity called Hey Whipple, Squeeze This. And it was very simple. A creative director needed to find a very interesting advertising campaign for toilet paper, for toilet rolls. It's a very generic product. It's in every home. It answers to a basic human need. How much can you differentiate it? You go beyond quality and you go beyond the durability. So he decided to walk the supermarket aisles and see how people purchase their toilet rolls. And he found this old granny who apparently makes her choice of a toilet roll by squeezing it hard to see how many tissues have been stuffed into the roll. And she basically had her grandson with her, and she was squeezing the toilet paper, and she's like, hey, Whipple, squeeze this for me. Let's see if this has enough in it for us to buy it. And his ad campaign was, hey, Whipple, squeeze this. And it was one of the classic scenarios in the world of advertising, which was taken from the mouth of your customer. And so to me, creativity is about connecting with people, connecting with events, and connecting with the overall sentiment of what's going in the world around you. And the only way you can do that is to be a knowledge seeker. You need to really seek knowledge. And knowledge doesn't come to you. I mean, lazy people think that knowledge comes to me. I just listen to the news. You have to read research paper. You have to buy books. Like, I'm a person who is fascinated by first-time authors, so I tend to read books of people who are publishing for the first time.
Why?
Because they put their heart and soul into their first book. It's very different. If you look at any successful author in any genre, their first book is very different than their second and third and 10th and whatever.
Yeah, especially if you go into the publishing world and it's expected, then it kind of starts becoming for lack of other words, you're squeezing kind of information out rather than being inspired.
So I'm fascinated with books that are published by an author for the first time. I believe they put their heart and soul into it. I believe that authors give you so much in a book, but they won't give it to you in a soundbite or in an article. So although I read a lot of industry magazines, they tend to repeat, like the narrative repeats. It's how much can you tell the world in 300 words or 500 words or even 900 words compared to 60,000 words. The difference is people share their experiences, share their insights, take the learning that they accumulated throughout their lives and put it for you in a way that can benefit you. And so going back to the topic of creativity, I think I cracked the code on creativity and being creative.
Fantastic. That's what we want. We want people that crack codes to come and tell us how to do it. Tell us.
It's easy to be creative. Just break out of the ordinary. It is true. People get creative ideas when they have really calmed their mind. So it's true when they say, I got this idea in the shower, I woke up in the morning and this narrative ran through my head, but I didn't have time to write it down. It really is when you switch off the active cells in your brain and you let the brain to start making connections. So the brain is an organ to me that is a repertoire of what you've seen, what you've heard, and what you've sensed. So it's all in there. What you need to do is to let the matrix happen, to let the point A connect with Z, connect with, it's a matrix, it's a web. And the only way you could do that is to, number one, calm the brain. So no more receiving. Let's get to a state where we're calm, and let's make sure this organ has good things inside it. So you have to safeguard yourself from the content that is out there. You have to make a conscious effort on what is it that you're learning, what is it that you're putting into this organ, and let the connection happen. It was very fascinating to me working in the creative industry, and I think really there is no original idea, and I wrote about it in my book. I wrote what I admired the most about Elizabeth Gilbert's book is the fact that she tells you that ideas exist and float around, and they visit you. They visit one person after the other, and they wait and see whether this person is going to act on the idea or not.
Yes.
So every time you think you got a new idea, rest assured that there's many around the world going through this at the same moment. It's what you do with it that matters.
If you think about the spiritual side of creativity, which is what you're referring to, one of the spiritual ideas is that ideas and creativity and creative ideas do not belong to us. We don't own them. They're out there. We're connected to them. It's just how open you are to receive. I've worked with a lot of people in the creative industry. I've worked with musicians, DJs, pianists, artists, book writers, and I live with an author too. You know, my wife is also a published author, and I've seen the struggles of. I come from. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, so I graduated as an artist, quote unquote, which is a dream that quickly died. To be honest with you, but
you never know.
Yeah, you never know. No, I still have a very like all the stuff that I do, my branding, all of that stuff I design myself. I don't use designers at all. I enjoy it in that sense. But the one thing I noticed with a lot of creative people that we talk about that have a quote unquote creative block is to unblock them through them understanding that you don't have to force to find an idea.
Yes.
What you need to do is the complete opposite. You need to completely surrender to the ideas coming to you.
Yes.
Which is not something that we are traditionally taught through school, through education, through all of that. We're taught that you have information and you need to squeeze your mind really hard to extract that information. And I think for me, this is the major flaw in education, is that we aren't really taught about, there is a place for that, of course, studying and memorizing and all of that, but we're also not taught of the other side of creativity, which is how to draw inspiration, like you're saying, from conversations, from nature, from
circumstances.
Exactly, circumstances, all of that. And the one thing that can unblock you if you are blocked as a creative person is to actually stop thinking about what you have to do and start thinking about what you want to do. And make your life about that slowly, you know. And it's slowly you'll see you're going to go back from stress to joy.
Yes,
I have to say
absolutely.
that. And what's going to happen is once you're in joy, these ideas are just going to flow. And you said that's the reason why when people are in a shower or when they're in a silent, non-stressed, we call it centered state, they seem to think about great ideas. And I love that quote. That ideas come to you and they wait to see who's going to... beautiful. Who was that again?
Elizabeth Gilbert.
Elizabeth Gilbert. Okay, I'll check her out. So let's go back to the question of what was the process of writing a book like for you?
So when I started writing the book, I wanted to celebrate a journey of knowledge seeking. I do not look it, but I am a hardcore nerd. I was a GPA 4 out of 4. I think in the process, I lost the sense of enjoying the pleasures of learning because I was very determined to make the best out of it. I would stay in the university library until it closes. I would want to write my research papers perfectly. I would want to really understand every topic I was studying. And And from there, I noticed that the one thing that stood with me throughout my career was the books I read. I did attend a lot of seminars. I've been to festivals. You enjoy them in the moment, but you only take 20% back home. But a book stays with you. You go back to the book. You go back to the author. You listen to the author as they write things down. So, like, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and Seth Godin. I listen to them now on YouTube, or I download their audiobooks, but I enjoy going back to the book and flipping the pages and reading through what they did. And I decided to write the book in celebration of all the knowledge I gained through books and, of course, on the job. And I felt that I want to open up the world of marketing to everyone. So I did not want to write a book that is very theoretical, because people who put in effort to write books are not always very practical. So if you look at the marketing field specifically, most of the best-selling marketing books are written by university professors. And it's usually joint effort between 2 to 4 authors in general. So my first mission was, let me take what those professors have written and rewrite it in practical, simpler terms. The second thing I wanted to do is I wanted to let marketeers, the general population of marketeers, know that they're doing a great job, because marketing is a highly polished industry. And when you buy books on marketing, most of the case studies you read about are for global brands or for great marketeers who work for brands that have crazy budgets. And they write about those amazing award-winning campaigns. And truth is, economies are not only built on those big brands. And I did jump ship from working on global brands to working on local brands. And the learning process on local brands is a lot more extensive, because you have to build everything from scratch.
Yes.
And I wanted to really democratize the narrative of marketing from theory to practice, and from big global brands with multi-million-dollar budgets to you can do it and how you can do it without having the budget to do it. Hence, the book is Marketing and Comms on the Job. And that's the difference, because if you just go to Amazon and you type Marketing and Comms, you're going to get a lot of books. And they're amazing. I have them all on my shelves. They're written by university professors. They have theories. They attribute examples to, your big top 10 brands in the world. And I didn't want to do that.
So let me ask you a question. What I hear is you are a great marketeer. You researched the market and you found a gap that needs to be filled. So how much of you writing this book was actually doing that versus this is actually something I'm really passionate about and I want to do it? Or did these two kind of come together at a moment where you realized, okay, there is an opportunity and at the same time it's something I'm passionate about, I want to talk about?
It started from the passion. Because this is a 400-page book. It is very hard for someone who carries such a busy lifestyle like me to write all by herself.
We're going to get into that.
It was the passion, and it was me delivering something to the community, to the unsung heroes, to the marketeers who don't stand behind big global brands that offer them ready-made, established, propositions, that offers them great training, that offers them great working environments. I wanted to talk to the majority. And I wanted to really give them access to all of the disciplines that fall on the spectrum. The field is very, very colorful. You could do marketing today, and tomorrow you need to do PR. After tomorrow, you need to run an event. Next month, a sponsorship proposal is thrown at you. And there are a lot of marketeers who operate in very lean environments. We always hear of one-person departments. I was a one-person department for many years. Yeah. And there are marketeers who also do dual roles. They do retail and marketing. They do sales and marketing. They have to do their own procurement. They have to do their own PR. And I wanted to really help them out. I wanted to give them the crème de la crème of everything, So I would, for example, take 5 books on sponsorships, read them, summarize them, compact them into one chapter, and put it for a marketeer saying, if you're going to come across sponsorships, here's what you need to know. Here's how to evaluate a sponsorship. Here's how to build a sponsorship strategy. Here's how to process a sponsorship. Here's how to activate it.
I have to say, I got cheat notes out of sponsorship for this podcast from your book.
I'm glad. I'm glad. The
Yeah.
same with the process of onboarding an agency. I was in the advertising field for 12 years, and then I had to do PR. I didn't study PR. And reading a book on journalism doesn't mean I can immediately write a press release. So again, I've taken 3-4 books that helped me when I jumped to the PR side, and I've compressed them into a chapter. So I just wanted to be there with all of the other marketeers. My dream is for this book to be sitting on the desk of people who work in marketing and comms, and not for them to read it by the pool, for them to have it handy at times when they need references, when they need checklists.
Yes.
When a junior person comes to them and tells them, can you show me how to run this event? We're like, just read this chapter on events.
Yes.
It's going to give you everything you need to know.
I think this book does that brilliantly,
Yes.
to be very honest with you.
But
It's like a guidebook that you
It's a
can
guide.
refer to all the time.
It's a guide. So it did come out of passion, and it did come out of an intention to connect with the wider community. I think we are getting to a stage in the world, and I'm sorry if this might sound gloomy, but people are too self-occupied with themselves, too occupied with what training they will do to get physically better, too occupied with, what help in terms of coaching, therapy they would do to get mentally better. And a lot of the narratives, the business narrative that goes out to the world is about the self. It's about the I and what I achieved and what are my accomplishments. But where is the community from it all? And day on day, I feel that we are losing the sense of community, especially with, the way the world is going. We talk about flexible working. We talk about, the positives of working from home, but you're losing out on connecting with others. All of the new narratives and philosophies that are out there, love yourself, take care of yourself, grow yourself. It's always the self, the self, the self. What happened to the all? What happened to the community? What happened to serving others? I felt that, if you've been working for 25 years and you want to claim CMO status, what have you offered to the community of marketeers?
That's a very interesting perspective.
So I really would love if we go back to serving others, to not just getting too absorbed with ourselves, because a lot of the services, the narratives, the schools of thought that are being put out there are about improving the self. And I love what Simon Sinek said when he ran a research on the 12-step program, and he said, people who really fully recover using the 12-step program are the people who fulfill the 12th step. And the 12th step is to reach out to someone who is suffering like you and to stay with them and help them and convert them.
Yes, be in service.
Yes, being service. So acts of service are starting to get pulled out from a lot of what we are learning recently. And I really do hope that this narrative comes back, even in organizations, even in schools, to teach students that, why don't you go feed the cats, the stray cats on the street? Why don't you go offer water, to like the Kareem drivers, to go back to executives and tell them, find someone and see how you can help them. Go out to the wider community and do it. I'd love to see this narrative falling back into our lives somehow.
I think this concept of the collective and being in service is something that, it's been spoken about for millennia. It's always in every philosophy, in every religion, in every whatever you think about. It's there. And you are right. I feel like this is something that is slowly decreasing over time. My hope and my dreams when when Corona hit was that that's something that we would pay attention to
Yes.
because of the isolation we were in, but also the isolation forced you to get closer, have creative ideas like that, think about yourself, think about yourself within the context of the collective and communities and, you know, who we are within that and how much we missed it. Just the normal, I want to go grab a cup of coffee with my friend. Let's switch gears a little bit.
Yes.
I live with my life partner, my wife, who is in kind of your self-description of yourself is very similar to hers. She's a self-proclaimed nerd. She sometimes I hear the stories and it's shocking how nerdy she was, you know. And when she finished her PhD, she made the decision to switch her dissertation into a book, very technical book, but she had the same exact idea as you. I don't want to write this book for academics.
Yes.
I want to write it for everyone, including
Yes.
academics. And she wrote that book that way. But I saw what it took as a mother, as a career woman, as somebody that had to, I was in awe, to be honest with you. I walk into the office where she's in at home, and there were books everywhere. Like all around her, sticky
Everywhere.
notes. She's the kind of
Yes.
person that is not tech savvy at all. So there were post-it notes. But I was at awe at her ability to multitask, because men naturally, and men, please don't hate me for saying this, but we're not multitaskers, and
Yes.
and you know, women in our lives know that. They
Yes.
understand that. Hopefully they understand it. They know it. Hopefully they understand what it comes with. We're very single focused beings.
Yes.
It's just how we are. And women have this beautiful ability to be able to do a bit of everything all the time. And that was what I was at awe at. So I want you to just kind of switch gears and talk to me
Yes.
about what it's like. What was it like for you to enter this
The world.
project?
Yes.
That's crazy. I mean, writing a 60,000 word book, however, looks a little bit more than
it's
60,000.
95.
Yeah, I was going to say, the 60,000 would be a bit slimmer.
Yes.
What was just the intention to get into it, understanding how it was going to affect your life
Yes.
as a mother, as a professional? What was that like?
It was a journey, and there was a lot of self-discovery in the journey. First and foremost, the best part of it was to acknowledge that you need to cave in for you to grow. And you do hit times in your life when you think you've done it all. You're very good at what you do. Things are in order, but you wonder, where else can I grow, or how else can I grow? So I needed the caving in. I needed to really spend some more time with myself, and being a hermit. Not just spending time with yourself, spending time with yourself. Thinking of what you can offer to the world. That's what hermits do in general. And then I discovered how much we don't focus anymore. So when I started the process of writing, I noticed that I was fidgety and looking around and checking my phone every now and then. It's like, as I'm writing my sentences and typing away, I just want to really distract myself. And I decided to put a timer on, and I realized that I was getting distracted every 4 seconds. Every 4 seconds, I would move my head or take my...
4 seconds?
Every 4 seconds.
Okay.
That's what life has turned us to be. And I started becoming very conscious on how I'm going to improve my focus. So the 4 seconds... went up to 7, went up to 14, went up to 4 minutes. And I remember the first time I wrote for 20 consecutive minutes, it felt like an hour. I had to take a nap.
Wow.
I had to take a nap.
Okay.
Because we have become so accustomed to living a very fast-paced life. You answer emails, you pick up the phone, you just answer someone on WhatsApp, go live on Teams, get to an event. we are not sitting enough with ourselves. And what is commercially called the attention economy, it really is a focus deficit economy. You know, the world, the products around us are now being built to break our focus. And I think focus will become a very, very precious commodity in the future. And I noticed that what I really need to do now is to focus, to really learn how to go back into state of flows where I can flow and focus and write for 20 minutes and 30 minutes and so on. But the amount of distractions that we have around us and we have created for ourselves is really sad.
I think that is a very, very, very important sentence that we have created for ourselves.
We've created for ourselves.
Because if you don't think that way, you're in a victim state, right? You're thinking that it's happening to you. But in reality, I think the biggest factor of realizing what the root cause of the problem is to understand that you've created it yourself for yourself.
Yes. I think we convince ourselves that we have to check our Instagram and post something, and let's just check Facebook, call a friend, see what happened with the latest episode of, whatever's trending on Netflix. And you have to go back and say, I'm going to drop all of this. And I remember I completed the book in December. I took 3 weeks off from work. And I decided to really have a digital detox where I logged out of all of my social media channels for 3 consecutive weeks. I needed to do that, to go back to a state of mind where I'm not distracted. And it's not only social media. You have to accept that you're going to not socialize, not attend every birthday, and learn how to say no to a lot of things that come your way. And your friends who love you will understand that you're doing it for a cause. They will not take it personal. But really, it was a hermit state. I had to go on a digital detox. I had to accept that I'm not going to see what's happening in the outside world. And you know what? I loved it. We forgot who we are in the process of all of the distractions that are happening around us. And I keep telling my team and I keep telling people around me, if you want to succeed and if you want to create something, you have to accept that you have to declutter, you have to detox, you have to move away from the distractions. I say that to my team at work. It's like, you don't need to have your email open all day long. You need to shut down email. You need to put your phones on the side. If you are working on a presentation or if you're expected to write, a report or something, you can't be always on, always available. You can't be. Now, with my children, it was a bigger challenge because how come mama's not going to be available? She's going to lock herself in the room and I'm going to stand behind the room door because I
How
want
old
to.
are they?
They're 7 and 9.
Oh, okay. So they still need mama's attention.
They need mama's attention a lot. And there were a lot of chapters that I've written with them on the bed behind me, jumping and trying to distract me. But then I had to sell them the idea of what it means to be an author, what it means to own a book to your name.
Okay.
And so I started showing them the books in my library, and I started showing them books of people that I know. And I told them it is my dream to write a book that has my name on it. And that's what I'm working on now.
How did they respond to that?
It is very interesting. When you explain to your kids what your dream is and what projects you're working on and why you're being productive, they buy into it.
Yeah.
So my son ended up writing a beautiful story. He decided to write his own book. It took him a couple of months. He kept trying it, and
he's how old?
He's 9.
He's the 9-year-old. Okay.
He's 9.
Yeah.
He wrote his take on the beanstalk story. It's called Ahmed and the Beanstalk.
Okay.
We rewrote the book a couple of times, and it was selected as the best story in school, and the school published the book for him, and it's in the library now.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
My daughter as well tried to write her own story of Tamara and the chocolate and the candy factory. So they actually got motivated to read books, got motivated to, explore the process of writing and what it takes. And with time, they understood that, when mommy locks the door of the room, she's working on her book, it's the clarity that they need. They need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, often as parents, we
Yeah.
think that they won't understand the depth of what you're
Yes.
trying to tell them. But
Yes.
in reality, to me, knowing what I know and like understanding how we are conditioned and how we're brought up and how important these years are,
Yes.
they sometimes I feel that they understand a lot more than us because
They do.
they're pure.
Yes.
They get the idea without all of this nonsense that
Yes.
we've gathered for
Yeah.
God knows how many decades. They understand concepts very quickly, especially if you're speaking to them on an emotional, vulnerable level.
Absolutely.
They understand it very quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
Thank you
kids,
for that. That was very
yeah,
important.
I
Very
think
important.
kids thrive when they see their parents passionate about something. And I think kids need to see a personality to the parent that goes beyond the parent. They need to see that mom is a marketeer, mom runs events, mom likes to go on conferences, mom likes to write books. And my mom is my mom too. She cooks for me and she plays with me and she takes me out on play dates and so on. But it's very important to show our children who we want to be. So they need to learn that process from us. They need to think of who they want to be and what it takes to get there. So with the children, it was difficult until I had to do the communication bit, and it
What made you so obviously you were probably struggling with it a little bit until you got to the point
Yes.
where you had to have that conversation.
yes.
What made you think and be aware that you needed to have that conversation on that level that you just described?
I had to drop the parent and put on the hat of a friend.
Okay.
You have to sometimes talk to your kids as your friend. You have to, like, I don't want the parent figure to be very big and, indestructible for them. I want them to know that I'm a human. I have my aspirations, I have my fears, I have my worries, and I have my motivations as well. So and the process of sharing. So like my son would always come and say, so what chapter are you on? And I remember I made a checklist and I said, I'm writing 20 chapters. And he said, I will check off every chapter for you once you're done writing it. So he was the person holding the space for me and following up with me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
On the progress of the book. So the participation, going down to their level, talking to them as a friend, or just, I think many parents want to hold the image of the perfect parent, the perfect indestructible force, that doesn't get angry or doesn't get scared or doesn't get worried. And I think we need to have a completely different outlook on parenthood these days. I remember my son came to me once and some boy at school bullied him, and he was very frustrated because he couldn't answer back. He's like, I don't know what happened to me. I froze. And I'm like, Mama, I would freeze if I was in your place. I still freeze sometimes when someone comes at me and surprises me with something I was not expecting. It's very normal for human beings to freeze in the moment. It's just something they don't show in the movies. It's something they don't show in books. They always make you believe that a character is going to immediately react and immediately protect themselves and immediately, answer back and so on. But it's not true. Freezing is natural. It happened to me as well. So I think it's very important as parents to show vulnerability to our children.
Absolutely.
I can give you a different perspective being a woman who's worked in the corporate world.
Yes, let's get into
and who's
that.
worked on, very, if we are to use reference gender, I've worked in very difficult industries that are mostly driven by men. So in my current position, I do logistics, transport, automotive, power, energy. So the products that I promote are forklifts, fire engines, heavy-duty trucks, waste management trucks, cars, electricity engines, marine engines, oil and gas pipes, nothing feminine in there. Nothing feminine, but I think one thing I learned in the industry and I learned at work is to really transcend the gender and the notion of who can do what. And there's a lot of unlearning to do. I think in one of my latest presentations to a community of marketeers, I explained to them that we always talk about learning. First came the revelation that we don't do mistakes, we learn. But I think the new revelation is we don't only learn, we also unlearn. We have to unlearn a lot of old concepts. We have to unlearn a lot of misconceptions. Even in previous jobs, I've worked for chemical factories. I've worked for factories that are very hard for women to even visit in general. And I did that. I remember I went to basically one of the brands I handled was construction chemicals. And I went there. I was 8 months pregnant with my daughter, but I really needed to understand the process. I didn't understand the product. I needed to really go to the factory, understand how this product is manufactured. I needed to go to the industrial area where these chemicals are being sold and sit with the shop owners to understand why they're buying them and how they apply them. I needed a real-life demonstration on the application itself in order for me to come up with a story about the product and understand it. And you know what? It was in the middle of the industrial area in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia 10 years ago, and everyone was telling me, you're crazy to go there. And I went there, and everyone was welcoming, and everyone was very respectful. I was not, put in any uncomfortable position. So there's a lot of misconceptions that are still lurking around us, which don't exist anymore. And now that I'm a senior person working for a highly industrial group in general, most of my senior execs are men, and they treat me with ultimate respect. They treat me like one of them. They also respect my time with my kids and my family responsibilities. I mean, I really have to say this, I love what happened at Al Masaood. I mean, we work in industries, we work in the total majority of our workforce are mechanics, engineers, electro engineers, service advisors. So really jobs for men who will work in the heat, who will work in factories. But if you look at what the company has done, they've created a very welcoming environment for women. So today, most of the senior managers in head office are women. Our head of procurement is a woman. Our head of legal is a woman. Our head of IT is a woman. Our head of HR is a woman. Our head of learning and development is a woman. So they did not just surrender to the notion that this is a male-driven industry. They still opened the environment for women. And we are thriving together very well. I never feel there's a difference between a woman and a man at work. It's up to you to set that course. It's really up to you to set that course.
That's beautiful. I'm really, really impressed that you're saying that. And it's very impressive because I know now I've done a lot of research about Al Masaood Group. I've worked with you guys we've had a relationship for a while. And I understand what it's like. But from what you know about the market, is how much have we progressed towards that in general, in the corporate world?
I'm very optimistic. I think we've progressed more than what we want to talk about because perhaps people are not ready for the new narrative. Perhaps people want to hold on to the old narrative. If you look at the celebration of International Women's Day, they dropped the word equality. They completely dropped it because nobody is looking for equality. They substituted equality with equity. And equity is simply what value do you bring to the table? And this applies regardless of your gender. Sometimes the old narrative used to say women are very busy with kids, with family affairs and family responsibilities. They're physically not equipped to travel as much or to go to certain physical environments as much. But today, I believe that also men are busy. There are many men who want to climb mountains and want to, in addition to work, exercise 3 hours a day, or want to cycle, or want to basically, travel the world while they keep a job. They have their priorities, and women have their priorities. And I believe it is time to drop the gender reference. Every person comes with a professional life and a personal life. It could be having children, it could be traveling, it could be growing your side hustle. One of the very interesting research papers that were presented to us were the fact that the majority of Gen Zs define themselves by a side hustle. So in addition to the job they keep, they have a side hustle. It could be a YouTube channel, it could be content that they create, it could be a hobby in baking, and they're very proud of their side hustle. Something we, the post-industrial age employees, did not learn how to do. I come from the millennial generation, which was basically put into the workforce after the industrial age. So we copied the industrial format of fixated hours, working hard, and we put it behind the desk. The millennials don't have that outlook. No. The millennials truly believe that I can work smart and I can deliver and be productive while I express myself, while I proudly hold the status of a baker, or the status of a paddle player, or a runner, or an athlete. And they talk about it openly in the workplace, which is something that we didn't have a chance to do, the millennials in the workplace. And so I think it is about equity. What value do you bring to the table, regardless of your gender? There are many women today who are not busy with their families. Some of them opt not to have families. Some of them opt not to have children, but they still want to travel the world. They want to basically get on a plane every weekend and discover a new destination. So I think people are ready. When things are brewing, and it's about to pop.
It's about to pop, yeah.
But nobody wants to take that narrative forward. And I think the media selfishly doesn't want to take that narrative forward. They're just milking the current conflict. Women empowerment, women who aspire, women in industry, women who can do this. But till when? We've been saying this for 20 years. Yes, I know. I would drop women empowerment. I would talk about women's security. Because when you look at the stats, we look at the women in the lower ranks of society, not the ones who go to work, not the ones who got an education. Let's look at women immigrants. Let's look at women refugees. Let's look at women who are facing climate change catastrophes. If we see what climate change is bringing to us, it's bringing typhoons, it's bringing floods, it's bringing those crazy earthquakes. Like Cyclone Freddy was the longest lurking cyclone ever recorded in the history of the planet. And who are the victims of those catastrophes? It's more women than men. The ratio of women victims to men victims in climate change catastrophes is 6-1. It's very sad. Those women are the ones who are trying to save their kids. They contract more sicknesses than the rest. They usually deprive themselves from food to give it to their children. So I would actually, let's spark this whole women empowerment thing. We have a lot of empowered women today. Let's go back and talk about women's security. Let's talk about not even the unempowered women, the insecure women and the unsecured women in general. It's like the narrative doesn't want to go there. It's not exciting. The narrative is not, the media doesn't shed enough light on it. Like last year in COP27, I attended a session by the UN on women's security, and I was paralyzed. I felt so ashamed just sitting there and listening and learning about all of this, and thinking, no brand has even taken this on board as a CSR platform. like, again, something very interesting I learned is that there are more women farmers than men farmers in the world, but they get paid less. And they look after their children and their in-laws and the elderly in their family. And they go back home after a long day of working in the field and they cook for the family, but they get paid less. I'm sorry if I went there. It's just I'm
No,
very
not at all.
passionate about
Not
the
at all.
topic.
Not at all. I'm kind of entranced by it. I mean, I have to admit that it's, you know, you want to say you're aware of these things,
Yes.
but not at that, let's call it technical level. Because if you
Yes.
think about it technically with the words that you used, women's security, women's safety, from a technical perspective, and in particular that kind of segment of society, we're not really well informed. That's why
Yes.
I was kind of thinking about it. I haven't heard that narrative in that way.
You won't find it out there. You have to fetch it yourself. And this again goes back to my earlier point, how important it is for you to really go out and fetch knowledge, to be a knowledge seeker, to not just accept what comes your way, to really be intrigued, to be curious, to actually put the time and the effort to learn more about what's happening in the world in general. It could be something completely irrelevant to your field of work or even to your field of interest, but it's worth learning about. You never know when the connection comes in and when the connection happens in general.
You know what I find really impressive about you is that, and we've been following each other for a long time on social media. What I find very impressive about you is that you are somebody in, like you said, in a very hardcore, quote unquote, men's world. Yet you have this femininity about you that is beautiful to see.
Yes.
And what I like about that is that it is an example of how a woman can be in a male-driven, hardcore corporate world and not have to feel like she needs to follow the
Yes.
ultra-feminist kind of ideology of I have to be like a man to succeed.
Yes.
I really want you to give us a little bit of wisdom on that, because I'm sure that there are a lot of women that look at you and probably listening to you now that think, how does she do it? How did she get to the point where she is right now? You know, I'm sure you went with your ups and downs where you felt sometimes like you needed to,
Yes.
you know, go to your masculine side or whatever. And we all do that, you know,
Yes.
throughout our lives, men or women, fluctuate between the masculine and the feminine. But how have you found that discomfort that you're in right now, saying these things you're saying? It doesn't have to be about masculine or feminine, or just be yourself, be feminine. It's okay. You have a value to add in your feminine within these boardrooms and things like that. Please talk to us about that.
I learned being a woman in the corporate world the hard way. And I did go through the phases where I had to wear black jacket, black pants, you know, white shirts, and look like a man and speak like a man for me to feel that I'm being recognized. I don't think anyone asked me to do that. There is this, you know, maybe this is how people try to tap into their power. They try to see what the powerful people around them look like or act like or speak like, and they try to basically imitate them. I learned it when I finally came to the conclusion that it is time to transcend gender in general. So I think we all have the feminine and the masculine in us. If you don't put a label to it, man, woman, you will understand how to vacillate between the two. And really in the past few years of my career, I really wanted to celebrate being feminine. And I think even if I look at my male counterparts, they actually would appreciate you more when you are celebrating your femininity in general.
That's a very interesting point.
You know, I also had to learn how to do the vacillation between let's not say gender, between a masculine energy, being affirmative, being strict, being more comfortable with boundaries, and the feminine energy, where you are caring, compassionate, and tender at home, because I'm a single parent. And I have to play the dual role of the mom and the dad sometimes. And in the beginning, when I started doing that, I used to lean more towards the masculine because I felt I need to fill that gap. But then I also noticed that I also want my kids to celebrate the feminine mom, the mom that dances with them and sings and bakes cakes and is very tender, very gentle. And I learned how to vacillate between the two. And it is a universal truth. We all have it in us. We were not taught to use the two sides of the scale. We were taught to frame ourselves into one. And again, it goes back to the unlearning. If you're open to the idea of unlearning what you were taught, even by the people you love the most in your life and you respect the most in your life, and to think of a different truth that is out there for you, you will be able to really become a different person.
Beautiful, first of all. Thank you so much for that. And I think there's a lot of wisdom to get from that, from people young ladies that look up to women in senior positions like yourself and are able to hold that feminine energy. I want you, because I think this is such an important philosophical topic, I want you to dig deeper a little bit into what's the difference between unlearning and learning. Because a lot of people mix these things and don't really understand the power of unlearning versus learning. Because again, we're conditioned our whole lives to learn. We're never taught to unlearn. Actually, unlearn is wrong.
Yes.
Right? So how can, not that I'm saying it's wrong, I'm saying the normal narrative is wrong. I'm all about the unlearning, you know that. But can you tell us what the definition of unlearning versus learning is?
Absolutely. Let me start with, and I speak of this region. I can't speak of other regions. I think the majority of us who were born in the Middle East and the Arab world, the first disciplines that we learned were very much cemented in being sacred. So as children, we learned how important it is to belong to a family, which family or tribe, your family name, and your religion. And these were fixated. They're non-negotiable, and you can't change them. And this is what we learned. I mean, you go to school, you learn your religion, you learn how sacred it is, you learn the history of your country, and you learn how to become patriotic based on the legacy and the history, which is unchangeable, unnegotiable. You cannot negotiate the history of your country. You cannot sit and criticize what was told to you that was great. And so you adopt this thinking moving forward in your life, and you become like a sponge. You absorb. So then you're taught that you keep learning. Everything was that given to you is perfect, and you have to carry it forward. And then comes a time in your life, there's no age to it. It comes to people at different times where you actually are faced with a situation or with a circumstance where you need to look in the rear side mirror and think, was everything that I was taught the best for me today?
What was that event for you?
Many things. I think changing jobs, changing countries, having to really move from a very homogeneous community to a new community and to live and work with people from different parts of the world who I know nothing about. And you have to basically realize that not everything is fixated. And then suddenly you think, actually, not everything is sacred. even what my parents taught me might have been best for them. Maybe it's not best for me, and I have to reconsider. So I'm going to pay tribute and respect what I was taught, because it served me well up until a certain point in your life where you have to see what is not serving you anymore. And it's really clarity in the truth. You know, there's a truth about your life. Something is, you know, there's a pickle you're in. And then the concept comes, how about I learn something new? And in the process of learning something new, you're replacing the old. And sometimes you're letting go of the old. It's like really decluttering your closet. You can't keep wearing the same clothes. Sometimes those colors don't suit you anymore. Sometimes they don't speak to you anymore. And so it's just confronting the fact that not everything is fixed. And slowly but surely you learn how to give up the fixed mentality, and I think you replace it with a growth mentality that, you know, I'm ready to learn something new. I'm ready to accept what is out there for me. I'm ready to accept the differences that others carry with them in their cultures and in their mindsets. And I'm actually ready to ask questions and to see what worked for me and what did not work for me and what could work for me in the future. So it's accepting the fact that you're going to let go of this fixed mindset and you're going to adopt a growth mindset, and you take it from there. And then the idea of unlearning becomes acceptable in general.
Very nice. I like it. I think you have this ability to put these things into words. I can see why you're writing now. I can see your creative side coming out. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So when you faced these events in your life, when you had to unlearn and you had to learn, and the answer could be no if you want
Yes.
to, did you notice signs, circumstances, things that people would take for granted kind of change in your life? Or
Yes.
were there main things that kind of happened that were a direct result of you saying, you know, I'm not going to be so fixed with my thinking. I'm going to be open a little bit. And now all of a sudden, you know, a new job came to me, or,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
a new friend or something that happened.
Yes.
Any kind of
Yes.
signs that the universe sent you. I'm really interested in these kind of things.
Yeah. So I have been a person who explored a lot of industries in my job. And I was working in a great position in one of the world's best advertising agencies, on one of the best brands in the world. I was traveling 3 to 4 times on business class.
What was the brand, if you don't mind telling
Emirates
me?
Airline.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I traveled crazy destinations. You know, I worked on amazing sets, but I have done it. Like for 5 years, I've done the same thing. I've done the travels, I've done the commercials, I've done the destination ads, and I felt that there was no more growth. There was comfort, and with the comfort came a lot of benefits. But I really needed to step out of this comfort zone. It was growing on me. And I needed to jump ship from what we call agency side to client side, which doesn't come easy. And I took a job with an F&B retailer. And in this job, the budgets were maybe 2% of the budgets that I had on the agency side. I was a one-person department. I did not have any agencies commissioned yet or contracted. And I was working for a young entrepreneur who really did not know much about marketing, and I had to learn how to manage his expectations. The office was not glamorous. I moved from an office in Emirates Towers to an office in Mina Road in Dubai. I wasn't traveling business class anymore. I was back to economy on, cheap local airlines. But there was a lot of growth for me that I was still seeing. I was learning how to deal with P&L statements. I was learning how to launch physical retail spaces. I was learning environmental branding. And I remember colleagues in the industry or acquaintances in the industry not buying into what I have done.
Did you leave by choice?
I left by choice. I left by choice because I knew it was time for me to bid farewell to the agency side.
People must have thought, especially Dubai kind of crowd, must have thought you were crazy.
And I remember when I run into people, they would stare at me. I was like, how are you doing? I'm fine. Where are you working now? I'm working for XYZ. It's not a big brand, you know, they haven't heard the name of this company before. And they get puzzled. How long you've been with them? 2 years. And I can tell they're doing some calculations in their head. And I faced a lot of this. So in a lot of the communities I would also get random questions like, who are you working with now? You know, the preconception of this is not the person who stays for long in her jobs. But what they did not know is I explored a lot of industries and I met a lot of people and I learned from so many that I actually love it. I love how much I learned. I love the people I met. I love if it wasn't for those courageous career jumps, I wouldn't be who I am today. Today, I have the confidence to actually work in any industry. I truly believe I can. I truly believe I can do it.
Because you proved it to yourself.
Yes.
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 It's not conceptual.
No.
It's real experience. That's what real experience gives you. It gives you the confidence, I guess.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to really throw yourself in the deep end.
No, you have to.
Yeah. And you do break the norm. You break the norm. Not everyone is ready to see that. And what I did was the hard way. It would have been so much easier to stay where I am. I guess you have to be curious. You have to listen to your heart and to accept that if you have a calling to basically answer to your callings. So when I hear stories of people who completely drop their careers and, you know, go around the world doing charity work, I have my utmost respect to them. I do. Or when I hear of someone changing careers very late, basically into their work life, I also have respect for them. I mean, you're only going to live once and you really need to answer to what you have. So I was at a conference last week and I met a gentleman who used to do the digital marketing campaigns for me. And it was so nice to see him. He used to work at the agency side and he used to run digital campaigns, specifically emailers, so direct marketing. And I'm like, what are you doing here? It was an architecture summit. He's like, I'm into the flooring business now. I have a company and we do flooring services.
Okay.
And I looked at him and before asking him any questions, he said, I'm so happy.
Wow. Okay.
And I was happy for him. I was like, you know what? We're going to take a selfie. We're going to put it on LinkedIn because I'm so happy I ran into you. Seeing you doing what you like to do the most.
Yes.
He never knew that flooring would be his thing when he was, you know, doing the glamorous digital marketing bit. But I mean, people have to explore.
Yeah. I think there's a certain consciousness in the air. There's a certain shift that a lot of people have to start kind of tuning into that energy. And one of the things that I hear a lot recently is people being aware of the fact that they're not doing something that's fulfilling or they're passionate about,
yes.
or having that kind of fear of the unknown, which is the reason why most of us don't get outside of our comfort zone. They're directly related.
Yes.
Comfort zone and certainty or uncertainty. And, you know, we were talking about this entrepreneurial life and how many times I've quit. And my wife has heard me, I'm going to quit like 500 times already, and my friends and probably my daughter too in our car rides. She's thinking I'm crazy. But there is this unbelievable feeling of excitement when you are in uncertainty. And I think from a lot of conversations I've had with people that are trying to make shifts in their careers, or, you know, leaders that are questioning the way they do
Yes.
things, is that people mix up this feeling of uncertainty with anxiety and fear. And a lot of times I need to make them aware that it might not be fear and might not be anxiety. It might be excitement that you are mistranslating
Yes.
into a negative emotion, because we're not tuned to our emotions anymore.
Yes.
You know, we lump our emotions as positive and negative. But within those, there's a lot of different types of emotions
Yes.
that can give you an indication. Excitement is one of those things, I believe, that could live somewhere in neutral,
Yes.
or it could go a little bit to positive, or it could be a little bit to
Yes.
negative. So you could be excited, but you're relating to it as something that is anxiety or something
Yes.
like that. So a lot of the times, relieving that misconception of how you're feeling and kind of really going inwards and understanding what that feeling is can help you a lot in understanding what your action needs to be, rather than a reaction to the situation. And a lot of sometimes these definitions are also kind of muddled with what you are hearing or what you feel that you're supposed to feel when you leave a job or when you go into something that you're passionate about. And it's so nice to hear these stories of people that have shifted and
Yes.
can say that outright. I'm happy. Because the reality is, it's not as secure. It's not as we've been conditioned to believe what your journey should be like and what your career should be like, especially in our world.
Absolutely.
It's not. And so it comes with a lot of uncertainty. But if you can just hold on to that positive emotion of joy and happiness, I think doors start to open, and you
Yes.
start seeing it as a viable solution to your life. Not that it's for everybody. At the end of the day, entrepreneurship is something that is just a skill set, and you can choose to go that way or not.
Yes.
But what is behind that, this going towards uncertainty from certainty, is, I think, one thing that you said that I want to take back and think about is how you unlearn, because that shift requires you to unlearn from certainty, from comfort zone to uncertainty, requires you to unlearn so much about yourself, about your society, about people, about how you're perceived, about how you want to be perceived, what's right, what's wrong, and then go in with a new set of learnings about yourself. And that, if you consciously have that exercise by
Yeah.
yourself in your cave, as you said, I'm just putting everything that you said together into a
Yes.
formula.
Yeah.
It could really relieve a lot of that tension that you feel that you are associating with as something negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me.
I think the reason of, the increased sense of anxiety and stress is, like you said, the label they put to it. I mean, it can't be that everything is stressful. Like, you go to a doctor and you have a cold, and the doctor will be like, I think you're going through stress. Like 1 out of 3 women today have the thyroid symptoms. And the doctor would tell the woman, I think it's stress, but like, the statistics say that 1 out of 3 women on this planet have this. It's just, it's just something that comes with our days. It comes from the water, from the air, from the food. It's not only stress. So I think, like you said, the labeling of stress has become misused in general. And finding joy.
It's funny that you're saying
Yeah.
that. Those stress, you're saying stress to joy,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
This has been my journey for the past 15 years.
Yeah.
The reason why I got into what I'm getting into, and the reason why I'm doing this, and the reason why I do what I might do, my business, which is human optimization and all of that, is exactly for that reason. There was a point in my life where I was literally rock bottom. Literally, I was diagnosed chronically depressed, bipolar, physically. I had all of these symptoms. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't wake up. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I couldn't live. And the opposite, when you get at that point, all of a sudden it feels like maybe life is not the right thing to be doing. And that's why there's a very high suicide rate. I understand that thought. I had that thought repeatedly. Maybe this is just, I'm done, right? And it's really stressful when you go to somebody and you tell them these things and they tell you it's because of stress, right? You know why they say that? It's because the understanding of the stress mechanism is not still very talked about, right? We don't understand what this word stress is in general. And I became a chronic stress specialist because of that, because of this journey, because of understanding what does it mean to be stressed? Why do we get stressed in the first place? And why is everything I'm feeling attributed to stress? Because that's what I had, chronic fatigue syndrome. You know, I was chronically stressed. That's at the end of the day, that was kind of the root cause of the problem. And it's true, yes. 1 in 3 women have thyroid because of stress. It is true. But what causes this stress?
It's the water. It's the quality of food we eat. It's the quality of sleep.
Yes. And these are stressors.
Yes.
Right? These cause you stress. It's not actually the stress. The question is, what's causing me this stress? That's the question. Right? Why am I so chronically stressed that my thyroid is not functioning the way it is? And why do I think that I need to take a medication for that to get better? There are certain extreme cases where you need to.
Yes.
But most of the cases, in my opinion, as a master health coach and somebody that's helped a lot of people get over these physical symptoms, is that if you relieve that, the root cause of the problem, your body is just naturally going to get back to normal.
True.
Right? So I'm sorry, I'm really passionate about that because I just think we've lost this idea that we are, as a human being, you have superpowers.
Yeah.
And we sometimes feel like we're diminished into this little thing that is so disempowered when you don't realize how powerful you are internally, externally, what you're connected to, all of these things we've been talking about. Where does your inspiration come from? You know? One of the conversations I was having with a close friend of mine and a few actually also with my wife at home is this whole fear of AI and that AI is going to be smarter than us. AI is never going to be smarter than us because all AI has is the information we have.
Yes.
That's it. That's what we're feeding it information. Maybe it has a better processing speed than we do, but I don't even believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that we've been so disempowered to think that we are not so powerful. Our access to information is so much larger than AI will ever have.
Yes.
It doesn't have consciousness. It doesn't have that ability to access ideas and thoughts and things that we have been limited to think that we don't have access to. Everybody can open up this channel.
Yeah.
Like we started with talking at the beginning.
Yes.
Everybody can take a really nice shower, be in the element of water, completely disassociate with the world, with this 3D world they're in. And this has never been explained to us. Why do you have these brilliant ideas when you're taking a shower? It's because you've opened up a gateway into something so much bigger. And if you learn to just do that constantly in your life, every single minute, every single hour, you become superhuman, or you become what a human is supposed to be.
True.
And thank you for opening that topic. And I'm going to stop now and let you speak a little bit about it.
I just wanted to go back to, I think when we talk about stress and depression is, again, people living their lives around the I. There has become so much individuality into our lives, and there has been so much around us that is feeding this individuality. One of the books I hold very dearly in my library is a coffee table book about the pictures, some of the most viral pictures that of the Lebanese Civil War. And I lived the Lebanese Civil War. I was born into it. So the first 10 years of my life are just the war. And as a kid, I was very happy. And I have very happy memories of my childhood, even as a kid playing with my cousins in the bunker when all the bombing is happening. But in this book, there is a very interesting story of a man who basically his story was told with two of his pictures. The first picture, he's a drummer in a wedding, and his night job was basically a musician in weddings. So he would be the drummer in weddings. But his day job was actually collecting the bodies of the dead and putting it in graveyards. And these were the unidentified bodies of, like, people didn't come to claim them. And you'd think, how did this person live his life? And there's an interview with him, and he says, I'm very content with my life because I believe I was sent to help those who are celebrating a new life and those who are celebrating the end of life. And just like we think love is what people share more death than love in their lives. So he was celebrating death and honoring dead people by giving them a grave. And he was also celebrating with those who are getting married and about to basically birth new people or new lives into this earth.
Wow,
And
that's
I mean,
amazing.
what would he, like, if we are to identify him in the context of today? He doesn't go to the gym, he doesn't meditate, he doesn't have a therapist. He's probably very stressed, but he managed to carve out a life where he was content in a circumstance of war, in a circumstance of pure unpredictability.
Well, he has a purpose.
It's the purpose, and to me, it's being in a role where you're giving back to the community, you're helping people. And I think sometimes we forget what we're doing for others, or we forget to help others. We're always too busy to help, to go out and help others. And I think if we just go back to basic principles of carve out some time from your busy schedules to give back to your community, imagine how much that could help, de-stress people in general.
Yeah, I see this on a soul level. That's why it's on a soul level. Every time you help somebody, or every time you connect with somebody, or every time you feel like you've affected somebody's life positively in any way, you feel fulfilled. And the way I look at it from a spiritual perspective is that our soul is part of something so big and so eternal, right? And when that something that's so big and so eternal decided to have an experience, it needed to give parts of itself away.
Yes.
And when you're made up of a whole, and then you have to become two, what ends up happening is you create a separation that needs to be filled. Let's not get into it, but time and distance and all of these things that we experience here on the 3D realm. And all of a sudden, you're separate from the whole. But your soul internally knows that it belongs to a whole.
Yeah.
And it probably, because of how beautiful that whole is, it always wants to go back. And so when my soul sees your soul, and your soul sees a bunch of souls that are struggling or not happy or whatever, and you help, that connection makes you more go towards what you on a soul level want to do. You want to go back to that source. You want to connect with that source at any time, because on a human level, you're doing all these things that sometimes are not connected to your soul mission or your soul purpose. And so when you do altruistic things and when you help people, it fills you up so much. That's the way I kind of like see it from a spiritual perspective. And there's a very functional application to your life if you think about what your soul purpose is, why you're here, what is your purpose in general, not as a person, as a human being, as Marwa, but Marwa is a definition of your parents at the end of the day. The name, the religion, the nationality or circumstances. You grew up in war, you moved from the war, you had all of these, your career. It's a collection of things that were circumstantial or not, depending what you believe in. But at the end of the day, your soul chose this life for a purpose. And as soon as you're able to connect with that purpose, like you're saying, like this guy that went and, you know, did something he enjoys doing. I'm not saying his sole purpose was to go do what he's doing now.
Yes.
His sole purpose was to find joy.
Yes.
And as soon as he found joy, I would love for you to connect with him in a year and report to me to understand where that journey has taken him. Where has he attracted abundance? Has he, you know, grown his company? Has he now pivoted to something that brings him even more joy? It's really interesting to look at life when you look at it from that kind of perspective, which I feel a lot of people have lost in this world, to understand that you are a human being and you're made up of parts.
Yes.
You have your mind, you have your body, and you have your soul. And the three of them are equally important. We lost connection.
Connection. True.
Right? And
We're
connection,
distracted.
yes, connection comes from the soul.
Yeah.
What does connection mean at the end of the day? We were talking about before. It's you being connected to something much bigger, much more bigger than you can ever imagine. And we've lost it because we've lost the soul. You know, I've created this thing called the 10 Pillars of Life Mastery. One of the most important ones out of that is spirituality, one of the pillars. And I find that when I work with high performers and high achievers and leaders and things like that, that aspect is a thing that we take and we put in our little pocket in the back. And we pride ourselves in meditating 10 minutes a day or something like that. Okay, fine. The application is amazing. But do you understand the power of it?
Yeah.
That's what people, I think, need to get back to. You know, we look at people from 100 years ago or 200 years ago and we think they're crazy to be believing in all of these things. But they knew something.
Yes, they had more time on their hands to really observe, and they were not too occupied with the physical. Everything has become very physical for us, you know.
Yes. What if anything, do you use to kind of stay connected? So when you wrote your book and you were feeling like you were inspired, what was it that made you feel like you are creatively downloading or connected to something bigger that was coming through you, like you described it?
Just safeguarding my ability to create. It also took some time to observe that people either de-stress or try to find their existence and their self-expression through consumption. So they consume movies, they go out with friends, they shop around. And I think when you switch and you understand that the avenue should be creation, any form of creation, it could be creating content, it could be writing, it could be, baking a cake, any form where you are creating, you're outputting, because we humans need to output. And I think we sometimes forget to output and we go and we consume. So you're feeling down, you go sit with friends, you talk for hours, you go back home, but that feeling is still there. If you replace that with a form of creation, it could be journaling, it could be, trying to create a safe space for someone else, and you hear what someone else's struggles are. It could be, even going for a walk. It's an act of creation. You're creating energy through your body. I think just understanding that you need to go to the creative mode. The mode where you're creating energy, warmth, even the act of listening to me is creation. Helps you really feel that you've given out to the world.
So last question, because we could talk, I'm sure, for another couple of hours. But she is a very busy woman, we have to say, and she has stuff to do. So in that sense that you're talking about, if you can give us sort of like a step-by-step, a few steps, it doesn't have to be like completely till the end, but a few steps to kind of get people out of the doing mode, this
the
kind
autopilot mode.
into this world of creativity an output from a creative perspective, what would you say? A few steps just to kind of get them on their way.
First and foremost, safeguard your focus and your attention capabilities. And the only way you can do that is to really move away all the distractions. You need to have the bravery to sit like with yourself for at least 60 minutes in a week without anything, without phones, without a pen and paper, without music. Try it. Try the silence. Try the forced calming down. I also talk a lot about nomophobia. I always start my talks to groups with nomophobia, and I tell them, do you know what nomophobia is? It's a new word that entered the Oxford English Dictionary in 2022. And it's really a condition that is now basically defined by the American Association of Medicine. Nomophobia is no more phone phobia. We experience a phobia when we know it is time for us to put our phones away. And the majority of humans who do screen time before bed actually experience nomophobia. You go through the struggle of one more video or shall I switch off? One more video or shall I switch off and go to sleep? So first step is acknowledge that you need to safeguard your attention and your focus capabilities, because the world at the moment is conspiring against it, and there's an industry that makes a lot of money out of it. That's number one.
Out of making you nomophobic, literally.
Yes, out of making you
Wow.
nomophobic and out of making
That's
you
such an interesting perspective.
distracted, out of making you, and find the pride in knowing that you are,
breaking free.
That's step number one. Step number two, please stay aware of what's happening in the world. I know that a lot of the theories and the advice that was put out there for the people is that don't listen to the news, avoid the negativity, don't listen to the news before you sleep, don't listen to the news when you wake up, steer away from negativity. Negativity is part of life. You can no longer believe that you're going to live your life in the positive only. Positive is your reaction to the negative, but the negative is there. We have to accept that hardship, or whatever you want to define as negative, is part of life. Because what's happening is we're disconnecting. You hear the news about people drowning in the seas or about people dying in a flood, and you let it pass because someone told you switch it off. It's going to stress you out. But how are you going to really answer to a calling if you are not connected to what's happening to the world around you? So please drop the notion of I'm only going to focus on what I like and the topics that I enjoy and the avenues that are good enough for me. And please keep an open mind and keep alert of what is happening in the world. If you don't see patterns in what is happening in the world, you're never going to wake up and feel that you have something to give to the world outside. I think we're suppressing ourselves from believing that we have something to give to the world outside. And the third step is simply ask yourself, what have I offered others today? Apart from the morning run or, whatever content you put out there, or, working and going back home and, de-stressing at night with friends, or in the third place, what have you offered to the world? You might not offer the world something every day, but what are you giving back to the community? What are you giving back to the planet? I mean, you see like Generation Alpha and Generation Z, they're so angry at the state of affairs of the planet. They're angry at us. They're angry at the millennials and the baby boomers who spend their lives just working and consuming. Work, consume. And we destroyed so much in the process. And now the new generation has to handle it and has to live with it. And they're already angry at us. And we still don't want to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. So I think 3 steps. Safeguard your attention and your focus. Number 2, accept the negativity and the hardship that is out there. Don't run away from it or think that you have the entitlement factor to dismiss it. Yes. I'm sorry to say. Yes. And number 3, please really think of how are you contributing to solving or to helping something that is bigger than you, or bigger than the parameters of your life, which is your job and your family conditions and so on.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing, Marwa. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
I'm
you for
really
the
happy that
time.
we get to meet like this, actually, because
Yeah.
we've been connected for a while. And if you can just tell people where they can find you,
Yes.
if they're looking for you.
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me on Marwa Kaabour. I also have a website, Marwa Kaabour. They can email me.
How do you spell that? Just some people know.
MarwaKaabour.
Okay,
So
and we're going to have that
marwakaabour.com.
in
Yeah.
the description also.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great.
Great.
Well, Marwa is very open. She's always very responsive, and she's
Yeah.
just exactly how you see her. And thank you so much for your authenticity. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.